Hey guys, it's Chelsea. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. I post every Monday and Wednesday, and definitely more frequently now that we are self-isolating and in quarantine. I hope that you guys are all being safe and staying inside if you can. I know that it sucks, but I hope that my videos are able to bring you some form of comfort and entertainment. That way you don't have to go crazy not leaving your house. So before we get into this video, just look below and see if you're subscribed. If you're not, we will wait for you to subscribe. Okay, now let's actually get into this video. So I mentioned it in my previous one. I'm editing the footage right now. I'm not sure if I like it, or so if you guys see it about my teacher story time, then you'll know what I'm talking about. If not, you're just going based off the title, about the time my best friend did witchcraft on me. So this is not clickbait. I wish that it was. This is not made up. I swear on my life. If I can find receipts, I'll input it, but obviously I graduated a few years ago, so yeah. Anyway, so we'll call her, I don't know, I feel like I have friends by the name of everything, so we'll call her D. So D and I's families had been friends for years, since before we were born. My parents went to the same church, so we are obviously very close. When times got rough, you know, we did stay with them when I was really little. We were close friends, like, you know, we were cool. There was never any like beef that I knew of. I knew people like sometimes say like, yo, like I think D is a bit jealous of you. And I'm by far not like a person to think that someone else is jealous of me. I'm like, okay, well, why? Like I don't get it. Like I'm just chilling. Like I don't understand. I was like, that's weird, but okay. And so the story that I'm gonna essentially tell you takes place between high school and, we'll say, like when I was in college. So between like maybe like over a grasp of like 4 years essentially. And so what happened was, she was going to a public school and she was on the cheer team and all this fun stuff, and she was getting bullied really badly, like to the point where girls were threatening to jump her after school if they saw her. Like it was just an awful situation that I wouldn't put on anyone, if whether or not I liked you or not. And so my mom was like, well, you should send her to the school that I went to. So I went to a charter school. So essentially it's homeschool, and I would do all my work online, but I did have teachers for each class. And then once a week for 4 hours, you would go into a class. You get assigned a classroom, and that's where you would go every week on your day. And you would, you know, do your work there. Then all of your teachers would come meet with you. If you were below in their class, you know, they'd come talk to you about it, or they just come offer you help. You know, that's like your time. And then you would come another day if you had any extracurricular activities. So you still had time on campus to like be with teachers, be with real people, but essentially everything was homeschool. And if you watched my previous video, if I upload it, I did mention how I was not, I don't want to say popular, but my family and my name was well known, my last name. So it did carry weight because my sisters and my sister and my brothers all graduated there. Also, they all spoke at graduation. My sister was the very first person to start there when it opened and graduated there, so kindergarten and high school. And so we were always just really cool with the staff because we'd known them for years, so our name carried a little bit of weight. And so if you needed to get in, sometimes there would be a wait list because, you know, people didn't want, we have a terrible public school system here, and people didn't want their kids going to public school. So there was a wait list. So if you would be like, well, the Robinsons recommended me, you're off the wait list. Like you were in, you were assigned a day, you know, it happened. So my mom was like, you know, you should put her in the school with Chelsea, you know, they can go on the same days, whatever. So they go and they get her all enrolled, and we start going on the same day. I believe we went on Wednesdays. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we went on Wednesdays because Wednesdays have the extracurricular activities. So I remember I would be there from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. like, which is I guess regular school hours, but you know, I wasn't used to that. And so we weren't in the same classrooms, but after school, because you know we are friends, we're homegirls, every Wednesday we would walk to 7-Eleven and we would get Slurpees, and that was our thing. I still have that tradition now. I've had that for like 6 years. Not every Wednesday now, but I would get Slurpees pretty frequently, and even when I was in college, I would still get them every Wednesday. However, my goal was to graduate early. That has just been my goal forever. I wanted to graduate early. I was in summer school every year for no real reason other than the fact that I wanted to graduate early. And I was taking extra classes. Like at one point I was taking 12 classes at a time, like per semester. So I had a huge load, and I wasn't sure exactly what school I wanted to go to. Like my goal for life for ever since I was a kid is I always wanted to go to Yale, which is obviously a very top tier school. If you don't know anything about university or colleges, it's top tier. Like you have to be very smart. It is a Ivy League school, so you know, like Yale, Princeton, Harvard, Stanford, things like that, they are extremely hard to get into. So for middle school, I had printed out like the necessities that I needed to get into that school, and I followed them strictly, like what activities do I need, what classes do I need, and that's how I planned out my schedule. Obviously, I didn't even end up applying because by the time I came to apply for college, I had no desire to go there anymore for whatever reason. I wanted to go and I wanted to be a lawyer. Surprise, D wanted to be a lawyer too, which is not a big deal. People can be whatever. I'm like, okay, like dope, we can do this together, partners in crime. And so I'm studying really hard, and then we had proficiency testing. So if you're from Nevada, we have those. I don't know how other schools work, so it's pretty much like an exam. You take your sophomore year, you take reading, writing, no, you take reading, math, science, and then junior year you would take writing. And if you did not pass those, you would have to take them again every year. And then seniors got to take them 3 times a year, I believe, and then juniors got to take them twice. So I didn't pass my my math and science. I missed them both by 2 questions, and so I was stressed, and I was really upset about it because I'm like, if I can't pass these, then I can't graduate, and I'll have to be here for an additional year. So pretty much by that time came, I stayed at school for 3 years. However, I had all the credits I needed after the 2nd year. So I was pretty much just there because it was a requirement for me to take things like what was it? Like some math class I needed or something. So we were pretty much just tossing extra stuff onto my agenda just to keep me having a full plate. And so I was taking like AP classes, and I was in honors, everything like that. And so I'm like, if I can't pass these classes, I can't graduate. Like, this is obviously something I really want. And so I didn't pass them the very first time. And so I'm bugging. I'm stressed. And D didn't pass hers either. And I'm like, no, girl, like, it's cool. Like, you got it. Like, we're gonna help each other out, we're gonna study, we're gonna take the practice test. And so what happens essentially is if you don't pass one of your classes, you get put into a additional class that's pretty much, it doesn't even teach you anything, it just teaches you how to pass the test. This just tells you how pointless the tests were in general. Is that like they essentially were just there to tell you how to pass the test. Like, that's just what it was. And so I had an amazing science teacher for that class, and I was taking practice test after practice test after practice test. I was literally bugging him 24/7, like, okay, like, and what he would have us do is he would print out our results, that way we can see like what it was, like what section of it that we didn't do very good on. I don't remember what my section was. I think it might have been like earth science, I don't know. But I remember I was like, okay, like this is where my weakest links were, so like this is what I'm gonna practice on. And I'm like, hey girl, like I got these practice sets, you wanna use them? She's like, no, like I'm doing my own thing. I'm like, okay, dope, like no big deal, we're in the same class anyway, so it really doesn't, whatever. And so I'm practicing, like I'm busting my, I don't curse, but I was busting my ass like to make sure that I could pass, because this was going to be my last time being able to take it, because I was going to be a junior, you can only do it twice. And I was like, if I don't do this, I can't graduate. There was another girl that I had already known even before Dee started coming into the school, before she transferred. And we were cool, like we were friends, like we would hang out on occasion. We weren't like besties or nothing, but like we went to the same school, we would hang out, we were cool. And so like I introduced her to Dee, so I'm like, hey, like this is my homegirl, what am I gonna call her? We'll call her Rhonda, because she literally reminds me so much of someone that I know named Rhonda. So I was like, hey, like Dee, this is Rhonda, this is Dee. So Rhonda would start like going with us on Wednesdays to get like Slurpees and stuff. And anyway, we all became kind of like friends, and then eventually testing came back around. Obviously, you know, I'm still hustling. I'm like, I gotta pass these. So the first one results we get back were writing. I was really nervous about writing because I am dyslexic, so I have an IEP, which is for students with learning disabilities, but it was a super big struggle for me. I eventually, you know, for the most part overcame it, but when it came to testing, or if I was in really high volume stress areas, it would get really bad. So my strong suits were always math and science. I don't test well, but like as far as just class, I was an A student. I do math for fun. I'm a weirdo. But when it came to things like reading and writing, those were not my strong suits. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I only have one chance to take the writing proficiency. So I'm pressed. So I take my writing proficiency, which I already know is going to be an even bigger struggle for me because of learning disabilities. And so I take it and I get those results back. So it's a whole week that they block out for school. They cancel classes. So anyone who's not taking it doesn't even have to come in. And then you come in like a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and each day has a different test. And so I take it, and then I took my math one on Wednesday, and Thursday, I remember it was a Thursday that I took my science, because that morning my cousins were killed at like early in the morning. It's like, and I remember just like screaming in my house at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and that's what woke me up. So I had to go and test that day. And I remember I was sitting in the lobby, I was already out of it, and I'm like stressed, and I was talking to Dee about the situation, and then I don't even remember how it happened. I remember the door was open, and my teachers were talking about it. They're like, yeah, did you hear about that car accident that killed those 2 girls? Yeah, it was crazy, it was so brutal, they definitely didn't live. And I remember I literally fell out of my chair, and I was sobbing on the ground. And it was literally a whole mess. Like my counselor came, and she let me test in her office. And so obviously I'm like, in my head, I'm like, there's literally no way I can even test in these conditions, and I only have one time to take the test. And I remember my counselor, I love her so much, Miss Johnson. If you ever see these videos, like, you are the best, and I love you so much. Anyway, she's like, just ask God that your cousins from heaven will give you the answers. And I remember you were allotted, I think, like an hour and a half to do the test. And I remember I just sat there and I was just like filling it out. I love science anyway, so I remember I was just kind of like going through it. And then I was like, okay, like I'm done. And my counselor, she was still in the office working. So it was just the 2 of us, and she was like, what do you mean you're done? I was like, I'm done with the test. And she's like, Chelsea, it's been 20 minutes. And I was like, oh. I was like, are you sure? She's like, yeah. She's like, do you want to like sit and review your answers? So I was like, yeah, like, okay, like I'll go back and I'll review them. So I knew how many answers I had to get right in order to pass. That's literally what they tell you before you even take the test. You're like, all right, well, try to get 64 answers correctly. So every answer that I knew for sure that I got correct, I would like write on it. That way I could be like, okay, like I know that I have at least 60 answers out of, you know, 110 correct. So that means if I can guess correctly on one of these and make an educated guess, like my chances of passing are gonna go all the way up. And I remember I give it back, and she's like, all right, like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, like, no, like, I think I'm done. And so the next week comes around and they call you up to the front of the class. I don't know why they did this, like, and they told me, they're like, oh no, you like, I had like, you had to pass writing with a 7, and I got a 7. I remember that for sure. And then I don't remember how I found out about proficiencies, but I remember that I passed all of them. And I was like sobbing because I was like, oh my goodness, like, I've worked so hard for this moment. Like, these tests are so hard. Like, I'm just so grateful. I'm just super happy. All my friends like knew, like, if I didn't pass, like, I couldn't graduate. So obviously, like, I'm hyped, dude. I'm like so excited. I'm like, can't believe it. And I'm like talking to Dee about it, and she's like, oh yeah, like, you know, like, I didn't pass. And I was like, oh no, like, I'm so sorry. Obviously, I'm not gonna keep rejoicing in my wins if my friend is taking an L. Like, I'm just not the type of person. So, you know, like, I'm there being there for her. I'm like, girl, like, don't worry. Like, I'll send you all of the practice tests that I did. I'm going to, you know, like, help you out. Like, we can study together. And then my mom had found me this free tutoring it was literally for proficiency, and it was a free proficiency tutoring sessions, and it was like, I think once or twice a week. I was going there, and I was like really trying my best, and your girl was doing everything that she could. So I was like, girl, like, no, like, I will send you all of the information to the tutoring center. Like, it's free. I'll get you in contact. Like, we're gonna do everything that we can. She's like, okay, yeah, like, whatever. Like, you could she's upset. She's like, no, at the same time, she don't want to hear nothing. But I'm like, okay, like, but don't worry, like, I got your back. Like, I'm gonna help you so you can pass. Because her dream, at this point, like, I didn't want to go to Yale anymore. I wanted to go to Oregon, or somewhere in Oregon, to go to Alabama, hashtag Roll Tide. I wanted to go to the University of Texas, Austin, really bad, but I just had a feeling for some reason I was gonna get in. How did I like expect to get into Yale and then like not think I'd get into UT Austin? Like, that makes no sense. And I was a really good student. Obviously, I based my whole academic career based on wanting to get into Yale. I could have definitely gone to UT Austin, but whatever. Side note. So I'm like telling my mom, I'm like, yeah, like, I'm so hyped that I passed. And I was like, but like, what's weird is that, like, you know, there's a couple days I passed, I was like, but Dee wasn't happy for me at all. And my mom was like, did she not pass? And I said no. She goes, huh, that's weird, because insert Dee's mom name blocked me on Facebook today, or like yesterday, like whatever day that, like, we were talking about passing the test with Dee. Like, she's like, she blocked me on Facebook. And I was like, so I'm like, okay, that's interesting. You blocked me. I'm like, okay, got it, cool. And so the next week, that school, I don't see her anywhere. So I'm like, okay, like, whatever, you know, I'm not even gonna trip off of it, whatever. So I'm like, I'm gonna go to 7-Eleven by myself. Like, it's really not even that big of a deal. And tell me why, on my way to 7-Eleven, I see her and Rhonda walking back with their Slurpees and snacks. I was like, okay. I was like, you know what? Like, if this really how you gonna act, because I was hurt behind it, because even though like her family do be having a history of doing like shady stuff like that, like just being real petty, I was like, I was hurt, because I was like, when you failed your test both times, I was like, who was there? I was like, I was the one willing to help you out and help you practice and help you study, and you weren't even happy for me when I passed, knowing the fact that it was my last chance to even take these tests. If I wanted to graduate, you had next year to retake these tests, and this is how you acting. Like, you can't even be happy for me. And I was like, that right there just told me who you are, and it speaks volumes to your character. So I was like, you know what, like, I'm cool off you. And the next day, someone sent me a screenshot of her long Instagram post. I wish I still had that same phone. Maybe I can find it to like find the picture. And it was like her post, and it was like talking about, it's crazy how the people you think are your friends will rejoice in your downfall. Like, it was literally like talking about me. She's like, people that you've really been friends with like all your life and going to school with, And like now they feel like they can rub in their success in your face, blase blase. And she's like, but just so you know, like I'm still gonna go to Harvard, I'm gonna have better friends. And her mom and her sisters all in the comments like, yeah girl, like you don't need her in your life, you don't need that negativity, blah blah blah. And I'm like, no, like I left out a lot of details to that Facebook post, but like trust me you guys, like it was about me. Like she just did not put my name on it. And I was like, wow. I was like, this is the level that you scooped to. I was like, all right, like bet I'm cool off you. I'm not going, you know what, whatever, I'm just going, I pass. At the end of the day, I pass. Okay, I did my portion, I did what I needed to do, I put my work in, I passed, I'm graduating, I'm going to the college that I want to go to. I'm cool.